Vash, it's just Jim Carrey.
It is! A blonde guy, and I was like, I'm sold.
Whoa! Oh, gee, there must have been a stampede. Vash the Stampede, because we just watched Trigun on our React channel right over there. You can go click some of the links right up here, right down there, and watch that. We're going to discuss, we just finished watching the last 2 episodes, and you're probably wondering, who's this bearded man talking? Who's the blonde? Who's the purple-haired girl over there? Well, hey, welcome to WannaWeeb. I'm Pina, and I'm here with my host, Lace.
Hi.
We typically have a third host, but we were told through a pigeon dropped off some mail from us that Echo wouldn't be joining us, that she is actually currently on the hunt for Vash the Stampede himself. We have our number 1 tracker, Dahlia, on the case, trying to locate her. We couldn't see her in any of the episodes, so hopefully by the end of this podcast, we find out if Echo found Vash and everything's gravy, baby.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I was on the lookout in both episodes, in episode 1, episode 2. You said you spotted Echo, but I couldn't find her. So.
Man, there for a minute, at the end of the 2nd episode, they were in this town, they're giving a little bit of report, and I think in the background there was a robbery happen, and I saw this beautiful woman kissed by the sun with long black hair, and I'm like, kind of looks like Echo. I could have been wrong. You never know. But hey, this is their first time ever watching Trigun. I watched it as a kid growing up, even the new one that just came out, the updated version of it all, and I'm a massive fan. My little chibi that you see is actually a character from that show. We don't see him until a few episodes into it, but that stuff will hit down the road. What'd you think about it, man?
It was really funny. I think anime from the 80s is always the funniest. I don't know what it is about, even like TV shows and movies from the back in the day.
Back in the old days, before the internet.
It just hits so well. It was very well paced. I really like that. I feel like even if you miss one episode, you'll still know what was going on, because it just kind of like, it's a story per episode. Kind of like, I don't know, Pokemon. If you miss one, like, it's fine, whatever. Like, you just keep going looking for Pokemon. Speaking of, I remember Pokemon today.
Hey, it's Bulbasaur. What's up, Bulbasaur?
But it was really, really funny. I really loved the like animation style, but also the fact that Vash's face was just so, it was like a chameleon. Like, he could be sweet, he could be funny, he could be really handsome, but like you can still tell that it's him, but he was just like adjusting to the situation so well, and I really loved that. And like every time he was trying to like look so like handsome for the woman.
Rico Suave over here. Hey, what's up, baby? Don't worry.
It was so funny. And also how he plays with his voice as well. I'm not sure if it's as noticeable, but I noticed that he can be like very kind of seductive.
Yeah.
Flirty.
That womanizer in him.
But also like sweet and silly and goofy and kind of like, not that smart at times.
Yeah.
As a character, he's great, and I really like that we also have 2 supporting characters that are also very interesting and have like their own personality. And they kind of like stick to that. It's very well written. So overall, like, I really enjoy watching it. I cannot believe I've never even heard of it.
Really?
I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. The first time I heard of it is when you put it on your list, and I was going through. I was like, oh, what can we watch next? And I saw this, and like I was like looking up like, visually what they look like. I was like, it's from the 80s. It's gonna be hilarious. And then I saw a blonde guy, and I was like, I'm sold.
You're like, this reminds me of my handsome fiance. Don't mind if I do. Click. I do want to give you a quick heads up. This was made in the 90s.
Oh, isn't it 88?
98.
98. Okay. Well,
Hey,
90s, 80s.
I didn't want sitting here. We looked down. and we see our one comment. Actually, that was back in the 90s. I'm like, yeah, so sorry for it.
My defense, I'm dyslexic, so the 8 and 9s look the same to me.
Yo, dude, same, brother.
High five.
Yeah.
I will tell you like a very quick story.
Yeah.
And I try not to share as much information, but on my job, I had to put some codes in, and I had to put some codes that are like the first letters of the names, and I put PP instead of PR, and I was like, P and R, it looks the same. Like, I can't see it.
PP.
And I didn't see it for 2 days. I didn't notice it.
Oh no.
Because my eyes
so
were just
you're trying
like,
to figure out why is the code not working?
yeah, and I was just like, my eyes were just like, I don't know what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, dude.
it makes sense to my eyes. And then once someone points it out, I was like, oh.
Oh, like you see the R finally fade away into a P. You're like, oh.
Yeah. And that's why I really like kind of doing my work and then giving some time and then going back and reviewing it. Especially with like emails or messages. Because when I go back like a few hours later, or maybe even a couple days later, like I actually can see it. But the day off, I'm like, looks good to me.
Nope. Yeah. I had like an installer come up to my job. I contracting business, and I had received in a bunch of product off of one of our vendor trucks. I sat there, I get everything situated, and I tag everything. And the next day, one of our installers picks it up and leaves. He's like, "Yo, this is the wrong stuff." I'm like, "What do you mean it's the wrong stuff? Everything matched up perfectly." The problem is that two of them read like 1578 and the other one read 1875, and I was like, da 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 da, and just like completely mixed the two out of them.
Same number. 98, honestly, 88.
Yeah,
same number.
Same one. I remember in my college one time I was I had to write out like an essay of some sorts, and one of them was talking about, you know, some hiccups that you have, and I was like, oh, well, I have dyslexia. And then I started to write out dyslexia, and I was like, I don't think these are all the right words. But fun fact, if you spell out sex daily, it's the same lettering to dyslexia.
Oh,
so when people say, so there's a joke, I have sex daily, dyslexia, sorry. So I wrote it on the side of the paperwork, and then I matched it up, and I never wrote it out. And when my college teacher gave it back to me, I ended up passing, but she had circled it, and she went, funny. I was like, oh no! But she circled this dyslexia part too, so she picked up what I was doing.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, hey, hi, Mrs. Johnson. Can I thank you for the paperwork?
I would move schools, move states, and maybe move a country if that happened to me.
I was like, I got 2 more weeks in this class, 2 more weeks, and then I'm done.
It's almost done. Yeah, but anyways, it was such a fun like watch. And I think that it would be really fun to go back to it. Maybe in a few episodes. Maybe then we'll find Echo still missing. Yes. Let me check if Dahlia said anything.
All right, yeah. Have we got anything new on the voice lines?
Nope.
Nothing yet? Okay. Well, hey. Hopefully she's out there finding more water for the guys right now, solving some major issues over there in the Vash the Stampede land, wherever that is. No, and dude, I like that a lot about like our character Vash, is that he is very chameleon-like. He code switches pretty well. He reads people. As long as it's not a hot woman, he can read what's happening, you know. And I think that's. And further more into the episodes, a lot of his like little quirkiness that we see starts to make a lot of sense. Episode 2 kind of showed that a little bit. In episode 1, every time they're shooting at him, he can just kind of like, oh God, please don't hit me. But in episode 2, we see that he's deliberately dodging them, but he's doing it in a very comedic manner to seem less threatening, I'm assuming. It's the same idea as like somebody who's like a real big and they have resting bitch face, sometimes they'll kind of like slouch to make them seem like they're a little bit smaller and stuff like that. They get very like, squeaky voices when you talk to them, like, excuse me, sir. Hi, yes, can I help you? To try to seem less threatening. So I think that's a lot of his characteristics. And then it starts to show more into the later episodes why he does that. And I just think it's awesome. The fact that, like you were saying, his faces will switch up and stuff like that when he's talking to people. He's all super bubbly and funny, and then immediately like, yes, ma'am, I can go ahead and take care of you. Don't you worry a thing. And then like homeboy with the arm, he's like, he has the cat face. He's like, careful, you can hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Little
that was
cat.
So funny. I really like that they did that. And this is something that I feel like we don't really see as much in anime anymore. Except Demon Slayer. I feel like Demon Slayer is trying to bring this back. Kind of like having little chibis, kind of like having little faces. So when I was watching it, I was actually thinking a little bit of Demon Slayer. But when you think about like any other anime, I feel like it's getting a little bit like more serious. Or maybe it's just like what's been popular lately. I can't recall any comedy anime that's been on around lately.
I think that's why Spy X Family is, I mean, hell, Anya took over the world with her faces, Little Anya. I got her right here, actually. She's on top of Bond, hanging out.
Yeah, but I feel like they still don't have that like playful change of faces. It's still kind of like, oh, we're sticking to this style and this is what we're saying. So definitely like a little bit different.
Yeah, most of the time they just like, they'll give it like a shock face that's like relatively in the same art style, but then the background is what changes to be like very plain or something like that to emphasize the whole like, movements, or if you will. Here, everything else stayed the same except for the character. And so I think that's what I'm picking up on. And a lot of these, like in Jujutsu Kaisen, they do that a lot, where they will show they'll intermix between the whole like deadpan, like, and with the background changing, intermixed with like a chibi art or something like that, with a normal, typical background that we've been seeing. So I like the dichotomy in that, switch it up.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I'm just like not thinking about it as much, but as you were speaking, I was like, oh yeah, like I guess they're doing it, but like it's not as obvious and it's not as often, because in here it's like all the time, like they change the face with whatever they're talking about. But and like in Spy Family, I feel like it's a little bit more rare, like they don't do it as often. Maybe they're trying to prevent like people getting tired of it. But in the first 2 episodes of Trigun, I was like, it happened so much, and I still had a good time every time. So.
Because I think it emphasized the joke already that was happening, and so it added to it instead of like the face being the joke itself. They complemented each other, and a lot of times they'll do like, "Hey, funny joke," and then they don't really add anything to it, or they'll be like, "Not very funny joke, but here's my stupid face." And it's like, okay, buddy. It's like adding a laugh track. Dude, all right, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad for you. I took like 3 grams of mushrooms one time and tried watching Friends on TV, and every time the laugh track hit, I felt like it was like a noticeable difference. And like, it's like if I was watching the show, but a laugh track was happening in the other room over there, I was like, I gotta turn this off. I can't do that. And so like with jokes that don't hit, where they're like, oh, this is supposed to be funny, and then they add like a stupid fucking face, it's that same feeling where it's like, I see that you guys were trying to make it funny, and it makes me kind of snort a little bit, like, okay, maybe. But if you didn't add that face, I don't think the joke would have been funny. Here in this show, the joke's fucking funny, and then they add a little bit of a behind it.
Yeah, for sure. That's like a really good point. Like it's funny regardless whether they're making a face or not. And I think a lot of people kind of say that about Jim Carrie as well, that like, oh, he just faces, but like I find him funny regardless.
Oh, dude,
but
yeah.
like his big thing is just like making faces, so that's kind of like the same thing.
Vash the Stampede is just Jim Carrey.
It is.
Oh my god, it is him. It's just him trying to be in a serious role, where he's John Wick.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be John Wick. And what's happening is just Jim Carrey's John Wick.
We cracked the code.
That is Trigun. If you had to summarize Trigun to somebody, it is John Wick but Jim Carrey plays him.
That's exactly it. Honestly, cherry on top. Like, that's it. But one more character I want to bring up.
Yes.
The cyborg guy thingy.
Yeah, Mr. Mohawk.
Remember when we watched Dragon Ball last time? There was this like cyborg guy. We constantly have like cyborg guys like all the time. Like because I feel like it's not the second time either. Is it just me, or I feel like we constantly have cyborgs like around?
Dude, people with like metal parts were like the shit in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, think of Full Metal Alchemist. You know, his whole spiel is he's the Full Metal Alchemist. It's because he's missing an arm and a leg. I mean, I think cyberpunk, and especially with this would be more of a steampunk style.
Yeah.
Because of the Western. But yeah, I do notice that a lot, and which is one of the things that's very funny about this show. When you watch it, it's like, okay, very fun, and you don't really dive too much into it. But when you start breaking between the lines and reading and looking at the world, you're like, how do you guys have wood when there's no trees? And also, how are you guys having all of these like robotic limbs and stuff like that when every other town so far is a goddamn desert?
Yeah,
just
we haven't
ghost town.
seen any trees at all.
There's in like the almost entire show, there's like damn near no trees. And that's one of the things that the updated version did. They all the stuff that they did, they try to make it based around actual minerals that are found in that location, because they joked about it and they're like, yeah, the first showing was absolutely adorable and we loved it. We want to make sure that we compliment it and don't take away from it. The one thing we will take away from it though is, how did they have lumber if there's no trees? And I was like, Studio Orange, what the fuck? You just blew my mind.
But you know, they have like the animals that they maybe transported from like a very far away. Because even like these days, you know, like, do you have oranges growing in your backyard? You don't. Like, most of them come from like different states. Like avocados from different countries. Like, you know, kiwis. Do they grow kiwis in America? I don't know.
I'm sure they do. And like around the, you know, Florida area.
Yeah. But like, if you think about it, like us, for so many years, like most of human existence, one big thing was about trading and transporting and, you know, for example, like tomatoes, right? Like, they're not Italian, they're not from Italy, but they're the most common like ingredient used in Italy. We're like, oh, the pasta they're making, you know, they make tomato sauce. You know, like they come from like completely different areas. So, you know, I feel like we don't have to see trees to kind of figure out that they're coming from different areas, and it kind of makes it even like makes us think more that like, oh, this is actually like an item that like they really, you know, value, because they can't find around them, so they're probably paying a premium price to get it transported from a different area. Just like water is just like such a scarce resource, and the guy was just like, you know, the mayor was just hoarding it all for himself, and like, you know, once he was gone, it exploded and it was like, you know, spilled everywhere. But I think it just like kind of makes me feel like it's a scarce resource. Metal, I feel like it may be easier to find in the desert, but I don't really know where they
dig
like
straight down, right?
Yeah, but it just kind of makes this environment kind of harder to live in. Like you kind of think it's like, okay, it's actually apocalypse. Like it's actually hard. It's not an easy life living there. But it's very... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's very interesting that's where they decided to put this story in. Mm-hmm. Because, to be honest, like, it doesn't have to be apocalypse for this character and this story to live, right? Like, they chose the apocalypse, and maybe they explain it later on, like, why this is the kind of, like, world they decided to create these characters. But I definitely feel like they could make this, like, character in a completely different world as well, and it will work perfectly fine.
Okay, so I know the story and the history of Trigun and Vash the Stampede and the whole 9 yards there, and why the world is the way it is, blah, 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 blah. From our 2 episodes and all the information that you have gathered from there, what are your theories? Why do you think Vash has the $60 double billion on his head? Why do you think the world is the way it is? And what do you think the main story plot of the show is?
Well, I thought it was more kind of like Pokemon, where you just kind of like watch each episode and like you kind of go with the story. There isn't like a big plot. That's what I was kind of thinking. But now you're making me think that there is a bigger plot.
Is there? I don't know.
Like, I don't know. I thought it was just kind of like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like Supernatural. Like there isn't like a big story arc. You just kind of watch each episode, and then they try to find a big story arc and they just like fail miserably. Yeah. I'm sorry, I love the show, but at the same time, like, what are you doing? I feel like every season
there's a reason
there's
40 seasons.
Yeah, it's like every season they're like, oh no, actually that was the big plot. And no, I actually forgot that's the apocalypse. Like, it's going on, like a lot going on. I really liked when it was just like, you know, each episode was like a ghost or whatever. But I thought like that's kind of like, you know, like, oh, we're just, you know, having a new event every episode. I thought that like maybe the world is the way it is because of like the environmental changes, but also people's greed, because so far we've seen a bunch of people who are very thirsty for money or water.
Yeah, very
no pun intended.
Greedy people, dude.
Yeah. We haven't really seen a lot of like city life, so I don't know like how the rest of the world looks like. It's very small, kind of like dead cities in the middle of the desert. But I don't know if there is a bigger plot. Like, I know these ladies are from the insurance company, which again, greed.
Insurances are one of the biggest scams out there, man.
Yeah. But I gotta say, Meryl was really nice, because when she wrote a report in the first episode at the end when we saw it, he was like, oh yeah, like this was someone else's fault, like pay out the insurance. So I guess she's a good person.
Yeah, they're absolutely sweet. Meryl and Millie, they are just awesome sweethearts. I adore them. Meryl is this like very loud in your face, but just very trusting, and when she's got your back, she's got your back. And Millie is this giant hulking of a woman, just this tree I want to climb up and sit in her arms and have her be like, hi. I'd be like, hey, what's up? She's just a sweetheart. She's carrying this giant railgun tucked underneath her shit, dude. She is a total badass. She is the tank of the group, but just the biggest cinnamon bun also.
Yeah. Speaking of cinnamon buns, donuts. I love that they're trying to buy people with donuts. Girl, honestly, just give me a donut and I'll tell you everything you want to know. Any question you want?
Yes, queen.
Just give me a donut.
Yep. Was he murdered here? I ain't telling you squat. Here's the sprinkled donut. Yeah, he's buried under 5th and 5, dude.
I thought it was really hilarious. And like I absolutely love donuts, to the point that I have a donut tattoo on my leg. Like
That's right, you do.
Yeah. Recently
We're going to show a picture down here.
Yeah. Recently we took a trip to Lake George, New York, and on the way we stopped in Albany, and there is this all vegan donut shop, like a fried donut shop. And I know myself, like I was like, okay, I'll just get one. Just need one. I'll be happy.
Just need a small fix. Don't mind me, guys.
Yeah. It's just one. It will be okay. So we had the dogs with us. So I went in first. I got my donut and I got my matcha because you gotta have a matcha.
Yeah, you gotta wash it down now.
And I came out and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna keep the dogs and now you go and get your donut. My Vash went in. He comes out with a fucking box of donuts for the two of us.
Hell yeah, dude.
So yeah, I had like 3 donuts that day.
Punch Rock is literally Vash.
Yeah. But
you got
honestly,
this.
In the first episode when we saw the other guy, the other headhunter, that was him.
Oh,
literally,
dude.
like, same nose, the same face, the same hair, same stash.
Punch Rock is a very enthusiastic sweetheart of a man who just wants to go down to the south and start a farm. He will knock your block off in an instant, but at the same time, he will give you just the biggest hug in the world and be like, I love you. He's just a sweetheart. Very much vast.
Yeah, it was really funny because at the beginning when you were introducing the anime in the reaction, when you were saying like, oh, like everyone's scared, he can like look at you and you die, like he kills like entire villages. I was like, oh no, what am I gonna watch? Meanwhile, we had a whole comedy. It was really fun, and it was really great watching it after a whole really long week that we both had. So
yes, it was a nice breather of a show for sure.
Yes, it was really great. But with that, let's get to the voting.
Yes.
I feel like I always rate everything so high. I'm just like very easy to please, you know? Like there are very few shows and TV and all that stuff that like I absolutely hate. And one of it was oh my gosh, was it Resident Evil, the Netflix one?
Oh,
the live action.
Yeah, that live action Netflix Resident Evil that they did. That really horrible season 1 thing,
yeah.
Right?
Oh, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. I watched the whole season because I was like,
everybody said it was so slow.
It was terrible. But I watched the whole season because I was like, it cannot be this bad. And I kept watching it and watching. I was like, it cannot be this bad. Like, it has to get better, right? Like, they will realize that it's bad,
They
right?
debated you, dude.
It was so
Far
bad.
from.
But you know what Netflix did? They did a Resident Evil like animated show, and I think to cover this.
It's just to cover their ass.
It's just to cover. It was actually really good. Like I watched it. All right, but for our Trigun.
Yes. It's a tough one, right?
I feel like I'm just like always giving such high scores, and I'm like, I need to be tougher with my scores. But like I
need
really
to be disciplined.
I just really love everything. It was really fun. I'll give it 7.5.
7.5. All right. You gave it a 7.5 because of a pros and cons.
Okay.
Your thorns and roses.
Okay. It was really funny. I really loved the animation style. I really love all the characters. And I thought it was just like a really fun watch. Even though we were like talking a lot and we're not paying attention, we were still able to like get on the plot. Like we missed a few things. But speaking of missing a few things, I think there is like because it's so quick and the episodes are so short, I feel like they're trying to put a lot in there. So the con would be that there are some things that are like so obviously like missed Like when she like grabbed her shoulder. Did we see her get shot? I don't.
Yeah. So in the very first beginning of that episode, it starts off and it's dark, and we saw Vash the Stampede running in the dark, get shot at. He got nailed in the shoulder, and he ducked behind a thing. And Mr. Mustache is like, "Ah, damn, he's back again. I'll get him soon." And we're like, "Oh, it's Charlie Chaplin, remember?"
So that was her.
That was
not
her.
Vash. Okay,
not
so
Vash.
that's on me then.
Yeah.
That's on me.
She Clark Kent you, dude.
It happened too before, I think in Fruits Basket or something.
Every episode, you've been Clark Kent by a wardrobe
Oh, it was in Naruto.
change.
It was in Naruto. The guy that. I am so easily deceived.
Oh.
Like, what can I say? Okay, what can I say? Well, I guess I don't have any constant.
That's so funny. So, side note, we've been watching the Daryl Dixon TV show season 2, and there's this character who gets a haircut. He gets a haircut. 5 minutes later, we see him again, and Lacey goes, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Honestly, I don't know.
I'm like the guy we saw
thing.
getting a haircut.
The same thing happened with Naruto. Literally, they take their glasses off, and I was like, "Who the hell is this person?"
Yeah, what the fuck? They put a bandana on, you're like, "Wait, who is this guy?" Oh, the fucking Fruits Basket when Homeboy comes in with the suit. Even Echo was like, "This guy." Oh man, that's funny.
Okay, yeah, but like,
I'm all hot now.
let me see,
It's hot.
like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I guess like maybe if I watched a few more episodes, my rating would go up or down. I'm not sure. I guess it's like a little too early to give it like a super high rating. But my prediction would be that I'll get a little tired of like the same stuff over and over again unless there is like a bigger story, which I didn't pick it up in the first and second episode. For me right now it's just like, yeah, like this episode, that episode, like there isn't like a bigger story or a bigger goal we're going forward towards. So that's the kind of the only thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I see you. I hear you, dude. I hear you. Well, I am going to give it a little bit of a higher note though.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I'm a little bit biased. But so I'm going to start with my thorns. Because it is a 90s show, it had that runtime situation, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast that it feels like you could just jump in and kind of know what's happening, and that you thought it was going to be very much of a slice of life. We're just kind of following this dude and seeing all the shenanigans he gets around and whatnot. That is a massive part. I think there's like 20 something episodes to the first season. And a lot of that you could probably cut out and count it as filler. There'd be like one instant and it's like, oh my God, we got some backstory, or like, did you see the way he looked? That tied into episode 3. And the other 20 minutes is just nothing. It's just to show, the funny stuff we've been watching. So that does progress a little bit, and there's only the one season. So doing my best to keep that information out of the way and only looking at the first 2 episodes. I'm worried that would be the case. It is the case. So that's why I'm going to give it a little bit of a lower. But I love the world building, and then when we get more into the meat of the story, it goes so deep, and they end up. I don't want to give out spoilers. It's just awesome. It's good. The characters are great. Eventually, we'll meet the homeboy that I cosplays as in my chibi, Wolf. He is a badass priest who smokes cigarettes. He's just so cool, man.
Of course he does.
And
He drinks whiskey as well.
boy, howdy. They're like, hey, give me some of that milk over there. So with my little bit of biases in there and whatnot, I'm going to give it an 8.9,
Ooh.
which gives us a WannaWeeb rating of 8.2.
How did you calculate it so fast?
I did the math while you
you cheater!
while you're finishing up. I did the math, but I didn't know how to do the math, so I'm like, what's the middle point of 7.5?
No, you didn't. Oh my. No, you did not.
I don't remember how to do the math, so.
Okay, I know, like, if you're watching this and me being bamboozled by someone, you know, like putting a bandana on or changing your haircut, like, but at least I'm good with math, okay? Like. Yeah,
it's a lot more than her dumbass co-host, right? Wait.
I love my numbers. I love my Excel.
All right, cool. I'm gonna have you guys start doing it then. Like last time we did it, I'm like, well, how do we do that number stuff again?
Well, it's like yours plus mine divided by 2.
Divided by 2.
If you're wondering.
That makes sense. Hey, can't say you didn't learn something on this podcast. But hey, with that little bit of a math lesson there for y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This one was a bit of a shorter podcast, but we thank you guys for coming on over here. We hope you enjoyed Trigun. Let us know what you thought about that down in the comments down below, and what was your rating to the episode. Lace, would you have any final words?
Subscribe.
Oh. Don't forget to hit that like bell.
Wait, I need to do it like the Blondie.
And then the bell.
Subscribe. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you guys. We'll see you around. Bye.
Hello?